I'm Tom Leonard. I'm the host of the Gamers Change Lives podcast. When it comes to esports, I'm definitely not the expert. I'm more of an explorer. The goal of the podcast is to hear from esports entrepreneurs from all over the world, to hear how esports can create jobs, and maybe inspire others to do just that. Our tagline is play games, create jobs, change lives. And here in season 2, we've been talking to people about investment. We've been talking to people about sponsorship, media rights, streaming, all kinds of ways to raise money for an esports enterprise from all kinds of directions, because it takes money to create those jobs. We call this season Follow the Money. Today, I'm honored to have Tushaar Garg from India. He's the founder, CEO of Streamo, as well as the founder and CEO of Irony Sports, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Welcome, Tushaar.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Reginald. Good to meet you guys. Pleasure to be here.
No, we appreciate you taking a little bit of your time here. So where are you speaking to us from?
I'm based in India at the moment in New Delhi, which is the capital city. It's a bright, sunny morning. So nice to be here.
Could you describe in just a little bit of detail, maybe just for my information more than anything else, what is the esports, what does the gaming landscape look like in India? As far as, are there certain centers? You said you're in Delhi, New Delhi. It's like, are there certain centers that are kind of where most things are happening, or are things pretty spread out?
Yeah, so I think esports is fairly spread out across the length and breadth of India. India is a huge country. We've got really great amount of people who subscribe to mobile phones, smartphones, have access to digital internet all across. So it's literally spread out, and the good thing is everyone has a smartphone in their hand. So India is a mobile first market, and everyone's literally playing games during their pastime. Sometimes it's to connect with friends, sometimes it's to just de-stress, and sometimes it's just to kill time. So we have a huge number of youngsters that play games and also watch games.
Yeah, sounds like most places in the world these days. But I think one of the things you touch on is that mobile is probably a bigger part of the esports, the gaming landscape there than maybe in some other parts of the world. Certainly more than it is here in the U.S.
That's right, absolutely. I think India's current statistics show that we have more than 800 million smartphone subscribers. So that number is absolutely unbelievable. And the cost of internet, or let's call it data, is one of the lowest in the world. We have Diwali, which is our festival season, coming up in the next 15 days. And we're announcing 5G, which is going to completely take the gaming landscape by storm. So I think we're just at the cusp of taking off into a much bigger focus on gaming, esports, live streaming as we go from here.
Great. No, I lived in Fiji for a couple of years as a Peace Corps volunteer, and we had Diwali there. It's like we had all the Indian holidays there. So it was always interesting to learn about it. And the food was amazing. So that's another podcast. Can you talk about how did you get started in gaming and esports in particular?
All right, sure. So, my background is that of a tennis player. I'm an All India Inter-University champion, which is like the Indian equivalent of the NCAA in the US. And from there, I started my career with IMG, and the whole focus has been to work across different sports. I started with tennis, golf, cricket, football. And my focus was really connecting the advertisers or the sponsors with different sports, different athletes, different teams, different broadcasts of different sports. So I've been doing this for a very long period of time. I worked on IPL, which is the biggest sports league in India by far. I also worked on TTP tennis.
What does IPL stand for?
IPL is Indian Premier League cricket. It's like the NFL or the English Premier League equivalent. So it's a heady combination of cricket in a 3-hour format, and you have a lot of entertainment, and it's just like a high octane mix of entertainment basically. And so from there, when the lockdown started, that's when I said, okay, fine, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to start focusing on being an entrepreneur. And that's when I had some prior experience of working in esports, and that's when I said, okay, fine, this is a great time to actually jump into esports and start exploring what kind of opportunities exist there. And obviously, I had a kind of an inkling that a lot of esports tournaments and esports teams are not getting enough monetization, not getting enough sponsorship, are not getting enough attraction from sponsors and advertisers. So how can I bridge that gap and play a role in doing that? So that's how my story kind of started in August 2020.
No, that's perfect for this season of the podcast. I wanted to just touch a little bit. You were, I think I saw that you were with TCM Sport. Was that
That's right.
And so, could you talk a little bit about because of your background in traditional sport, even if it is things that maybe people in the U.S. wouldn't be familiar with, but people certainly in most of the places where our audience is would know. But how does it work? What are the kinds of similarities and what are the differences do you find between traditional sport and esport?
So I think the traditional sport, the whole idea is that it's a fun, entertaining, eye-gripping sort of an experience that is interesting for audiences. And obviously, sports is slightly older audiences. I would call them young millennials, whereas esports is largely focused on Gen Z and Gen Alpha audiences. So the whole structure, the whole architecture of sports marketing and esports marketing is very similar. But historically, esports as an IP has been given for free to advertisers, to streaming platforms like Twitch or YouTube Live. So there's been no monetization. And with sports, I think the sports marketers have a much better commercial acumen of how to monetize, how to create value, and then how to exploit commercial value from that. So that's been I think the biggest difference, and that was one of the learnings that I could get from sports marketing to the esports business. And if you see internationally also, we see so many executives from the 4 major leagues in the US actually now migrating to so many of the esports startups or some of the funded esports teams or some of the publishers like Activision, Blizzard, and so on. So it's like something which is comes inherently with sports marketing. And I think the name of the theme today is follow the money. So like sports marketing is all about show me the money, right? So it's just one thing that the esports community benefits from sports marketers is, can we help them make money from this and make it make the business run more commercially than from an altruistic perspective. I think that's the biggest contribution.
Because a lot of times we say that there's no roadmap in esports, but there is an outline of one, and just like you described, it's how traditional sports has done it, because there's no industry, certainly in the U.S. I mean, there's just unbelievable amounts of money in the sporting world, but it didn't happen overnight, and it's really interesting how it's structured, and there's just ways that smart people can say, okay, let's put what we can learn over into esports, and the things that don't apply, we can leave out. When does first start here talking about Streamo? So because that it looks really, really interesting, and I also saw something doing a little bit of research here, which I really liked. You're looking at doing things at the intersection of 4 trends: passion economy, live streaming, video gaming, and super fans.
That's right.
One of the things I really like seeing was super fans, because that's the piece that a lot of people forget that is so important. Could you talk about that intersection between those 4?
Yeah, sure. I think the 4 secular trends that I talk about are really like the defining features of the way. Number one, the creator economy, which is the new economic model. Tom, you and I went to schools, colleges. We had a structured career plan, right? But these youngsters today, their economic model is straight out of college. They're starting their own YouTube channels and building their audiences and communities at scale and monetizing them. The next thing is how we consume entertainment. You and I watch linear television, and probably nowadays we watch OTT platforms. But these, Gen Z audiences, they're straight away watching live streaming. They're literally thriving in the world of Twitch or YouTube Live or Facebook Live, right? They're not They're not interested in watching linear television. One, because of the genre of content, and second, because it is more appointment viewing. And live streaming is, it's more interactive, it's more intimate, and it's very engaging. Third is video gaming. Historically, video games was this, so-called activity that one did in a parent's basement or in a college dormitory. But now that's also changed and it's becoming a very social experience. A lot of times, youngsters are not even playing these games; they're just using games as a social experience or as a digital third space where they can actually hang out and chat with their friends. Given the pandemic, a new kind of epidemic has ensued, which is the loneliness epidemic. 56% of my friends are now, becoming from the online universe. So strangers are our new best friends, right? And the fourth one is super fans, which is all about connecting, having real, authentic friendships, and actually, collaborating a lot together and spending disproportionate amount of time and energy on and nurturing those relationships. I think historically we had a lot of, focus on accumulating fans and getting so many followers, really working on vanity metrics, likes, shares, and followers. Now it's not about that. It's about, having a very focused community, people that you actually care about, and those people reciprocating that authenticity and admiration for the work that a creator is doing. So I think these four trends are really defining what, a Streamo does, and the kind of Gen Z that we're kind of offering to brands, that is at the intersection of these four trends.
And one of the things that I hear you talking about there is that you don't have to have the most number of viewers. You just have to have the most passionate group of followers out there, and you're gonna be ahead in the game. And that's what a super fan is. You don't need millions. You just need enough to
Absolutely
make you the hero here. When you talk about Gen Z, can you describe what kind of age groups that is specific? Because I always get confused. So what age groups are Gen Z that you're looking at getting in front of?
So Gen Z is typically 18 to 24 years of age. These are the generation that is born between 1997 and 2012, and these are people who've kind of born with a cell phone in their hand and a social media handle to their name. They've never known a world without internet or without Wi-Fi. So pretty much their way of communicating, their way of thriving, it's all online. And they're also a generation which is very entrepreneurial. They're not like people who would post Instagram pictures with pink backgrounds and perfect looking images. They're very they're a zero bullshit generation. They really like to call a spade a spade. And so I think that's starkly different about Gen Z, and that's why they're very entrepreneurial. And that's why they're also very much interested in some of the issues that are dodging the world today, like the focus on climate change, for example, or gender gap, or genocide, or diffusion of technology. So they care a lot about these issues and how the world is grappling with these issues. So they're very vocal and outspoken about what they care about. So this is a very interesting generation. And interestingly, I'll talk about India. We have around 375 million Gen Z. 27% of our population is Gen Z. And the next cohort, which is young millennials, is around 34%. And by 2026, this number is going to, the Gen Z number is going to overtake the millennial number. And we're also seeing that more than 200 million of these are on YouTube. YouTube is like this, home of Gen Z. They're learning, they're sharing, they're also getting entertained. They're coming together to create content. So this is I would say, very proactive and a very focused generation, which is really out there making things happen in a sort of a go-getter kind of a tribe, which is not waiting and looking forward to some support from family or from their parents. They're just on their own.
You mentioned YouTube. Is YouTube the biggest platform in India when it comes to playing games? Do people play on Twitch? Do people play on Facebook gaming?
So we have these three platforms in India, but YouTube is obviously the mighty, like the biggest one in terms of the monthly active users. YouTube has around 450 million monthly active users, which is a incredibly high number. And YouTube combined with Google is the number one media company by by revenue and by share of voice. Whereas Twitch, obviously, it's internationally very big, but in India, Twitch is still not very existent. It's very buggy. It doesn't have local encoders, and it's also not available in vernacular. Vernacular is a very big part of India because India is like 12 or 13 micro markets. There's so many different dialects and so many different states, right? And then Facebook, yes, it is playing catch up. It is focused on gaming as a genre. But I think recently they shut down Facebook gaming and they've migrated the community from Facebook gaming to the main Facebook. But again, it's not very much a Gen Z platform because Facebook is considered uncool now for the Gen Z. So it's a bit that migration is continuing to happen.
No, it's Facebook is for old people now. So talking more about Streamo, what exactly does Streamo do? When you say you're connecting the brands with Gen Z, what all does that entail?
Yeah, so I think that's a very important question. Streamo is basically creating a twin-fold solution. One is on one side we're helping creators who are half athletes, half influencers, who are creating game content and streaming it live on YouTube. We're helping them with monetization. Now, India ranks 72nd when it comes to the CPM rates, cost per thousand impressions rate that YouTube has. So India is very, very far behind. So therefore, even if these guys are getting large number of views, which is not a very difficult thing in India, they're not getting enough monetization. So we're actually coming in and playing that role of solving the problem of lack of creator monetization. Second thing is on the other side, we're working with brands who are specifically focused on Gen Z audiences or Gen Alpha audiences. These are people who are not watching linear television, who are very averse to traditional forms of advertising, and they regularly apply ad blockers. So, you need to communicate with these Gen Z in a very different way, which is what, we're offering through Streamo. So the whole artwork that appears inside the live stream is unblockable, unskippable, and unstoppable. And the way it's designed is it doesn't look anything like a traditional ad. So that whole experience is very much, what I think Gen Z loves, and we're not talking down to them or we're not trying to be preachy to them. We're talking to them as friends. And much of our creator community is also, we're focused on the guys between 1,000 subscribers and 10,000 subscribers. So while we have the guys who are millions of subscribers and 500,000 subscribers and so on, but our largest cohort of creators is the guys between 1,000 and 10,000. So these guys have very focused communities which consist of fans, friends, and family members. And so they have high levels of engagement is what, brands are also after. So this whole combination works very well. And it's just been, 2 years, we are a market leader. We've actually helped so many new or first time brands actually make inroads into game live streaming. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a fantastic journey. We've got 5,243 YouTubers that work with us on an active basis, and their cumulative reach is around 100 million subscribers. And we're working with more than 100 plus brands likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, MX Player, which is the other big OTT platform in India. We're working with Sony PlayStation, Intel Gamer Days, Crocs, Spotify. So you'll see a lot of the Gen Z focused brands, a lot of cryptocurrency brands we're working with, and digital payments brands. So all of these together, really, the whole focus is to work with creators, help them with monetization, and help brands access an audience which is very hard to reach on other platforms.
No, it looks like you're hitting the right audience for the right. You matching up the right groups there. You say there's around 5,000 content creators there. How do you find content creators? What are you looking for in a content creator? I mean, can anyone sign up, or do you go out and recruit? Are you selective on who you let in? And if so, what's the most attractive content creator for you to find?
Right. So I think with streamer, the whole idea is to be, very democratic and have no, like a preference for a certain type of creator. I think the way we are focusing on this is we're letting every creator come forward and monetize his content and his live stream. So we don't have even the barrier, or let's call it the threshold that YouTube has set for YouTube partner program, which is we need to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of broadcast. We even don't have that. So like tomorrow, Tom, you and I could just start our YouTube channel and start monetizing through streamer. We don't need any, background, any following, any kind of community. We can straight away start off the bat. So that really allows a lot of creators to come forward and work with us. And we also don't have any, like any kind of expectation that you have to stream a certain number of hours in a month. There are some, homegrown live streaming platforms which have these conditions because they're funded by venture capital money, and they need to clock a certain number of hours of broadcast to demonstrate that, they're actually having users form a habit of watching content on their platform. So we don't have that. We literally give creators, our model is very much like the Uber model. Whenever you want to stream, you can stream and you'll be able to monetize. The moment you don't want to stream, or you don't want to stream like 2 days in a week or 3 days in a week, you just want to take it off, you can do that. So our model is very flexible. It doesn't have any kind of conditions. And I think that's what creative people, and especially streamers who are creating, content, they love that kind of flexibility. I've heard so many stories and so many creators coming up and telling me, because if we have these conditions of, constantly producing content to a fixed number of hours, we were not able to give our best, and we're not able to churn out the most, fun content. So from that perspective, I think we're a very open platform, and we also focus on not just working with YouTube, we also synchronize with Twitch. So, the two of the biggest platforms we're already working with. And yeah, I mean, I think we're very open, and we have no conditions whatsoever.
No, it's when you're talking about Uber, that's an interesting analogy to make, which really makes it clear to me anyway. It's like, yeah, I mean, you can, if you're an Uber driver, if you're not making much money, it might be up to you. Not necessarily up to anyone else. So if I ask you questions here, and it's information, inside information that you don't tell people on podcasts that go out all over the world, well, you just let me know. But how much can streamers make?
So a typical streamer, he's making at least 10 to 20 times more than what the YouTube partner program offers. So that's the ratio of, or the magnitude at which we're operating. And like I said, the CPM rates in India are very low. And so therefore, somebody has to do the heavy lifting. And obviously we're doing that. A lot of times creators are, not getting enough money from channel subscriptions. They're not getting enough money from tips and donations. They're also not getting enough money from, brand deals and sponsorships. So we come in and we give them money on a CPV model, cost per view model. So the number of times they actually showcase the broadcast of a sponsor or a brand inside their live stream, they get paid accordingly, and multiplied by the number of people that are watching that advertising broadcast. So it's very easy to calculate, and it's very regular, it's very consistent, and it is passive income for these guys. They're not required to do something different, or they're not required to specifically do some talking and communicating on behalf of the brand. It's very passive. Whilst they're live streaming, the whole brand artwork appears in the live stream. There's a call to action in the chat box, and it all goes automatically.
For the streamers, where's the best way to get training? Where's the best way to learn how to do this. I mean, on one hand, a lot of times I always take for granted that, someone that's of that age group has some kind of gene that lets them, work a phone or work a computer differently than I ever will. But what kind of training is available for anyone that wants to be a streamer and wants to make some money as a streamer?
Yeah, so very interesting point. I think that's another thing that we realized as we started getting deeper and deeper into the community. We started realizing that a lot of creators are coming forward and saying that, how can I be a effective live streamer? How can I build my own niche in this area of gaming? So what we've also done is we've been focusing on monetization of their content, but now we're also helping them with creation of content. So we've literally actually focused on building this community on Discord. We've got almost 1,000 YouTubers there. So we're inviting a lot of guest speakers, prominent YouTubers who are actually sharing their journey of content creation and how they went about basic things like what kind of equipment to choose or what kind of friends to make in the beginning. Very easy to understand things that they can directly apply in their lives. So the model of the community is that come for the content and stay for the community. So they come, they learn, and then they become part of the community, and then they network with each other, and then they start learning more and are able to share their common challenges. And it's just an incredible, very supportive community. So that's how we're kind of going about this.
What's interesting there is that instead of saying, okay, we need some training, so let's put together all this training, online training for people to go through. Instead, you create communities so that they can kind of train themselves and use user generated content in a way that's probably going to be a lot better than someone who's trying to figure out how to tell it. Yeah, it's like, I'm just picturing one of the kids down the street. It's like, he probably learns more from his neighbors that are just like him, that are out there doing it, than he could ever learn from watching a video on how to do Fortnite.
Absolutely. I think that's the beauty of this generation. They're very much, self-governed, self-motivated, self-learners. They don't need any kind of, pushing or cajoling. I think they're self-starters. So they literally just, by virtue of their interactions with their peers, they're able to learn a lot. And I think the one thing that really stands out is that they really love to learn in a live format. Live means more interaction, and also they like to connect with people and learn in that manner, as against some of the young millennials who would watch a mountain of content on YouTube and just consume that in that way. So I think that's the difference with these guys. They're very interested in learning, and it all stems from the fact that they're entrepreneurial, and each of these streamers sees himself as a micro entrepreneur, because there's no like straightforward path on how to become a successful creator, how to monetize, and how to kind of build your community. So everyone's looking at different ideas, finding their niche, and kind of going from there.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. The way you're getting it structured. So moving on to brands, because what I find interesting there, you're talking about here's the streamers on this side of the equation. Over here, the other part has to be the brands. So you were mentioning some of the brands that you've connected with. Can you talk a little bit about how you created those partnerships with those brands? And again, I'm not looking for specific information. But in general, how do you approach these big brands and create a deal that works out for both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the process of reaching out to brands has been a very interesting one in India, given all the interest in esports and all the fascination about gaming. I think the first step is that there's a lot of confusion as well, because gaming is a very wide and broad term. There are so many kinds of games out there. There's real money gaming, which is a bit more like a gambling or betting. Then there's fantasy gaming, which is a bit more like skill-based game, but again, it's a bit questionable. And then you have sports simulation games, which are sport but in the form of a game. And then you have competitive video gaming, which is what we call esports, right? Being played between two or more people, and other people are watching it for for fun and entertainment. So the guys that we focus on are guys who are not playing to win, but they're playing to entertain their communities. And these are people who've formerly played games professionally, and now they've actually turned into content creators or streamers. And the way we go about doing our sales and getting brands on board is we actually start with a lot of advocacy, a lot of knowledge sessions. So I conduct this esports 101 knowledge session, which really breaks down what the whole landscape of gaming, esports, live streaming, metaverse looks like, and where does esports stand, where does game live streaming stand, what are the international case studies, how big is this this fandom, what kind of monies are flowing into this ecosystem, from venture capital, private equity, and so on, and some examples of what we've done with some of the brands in India. And after all of that education is done, is when we're actually able to start the journey of really propagating what we're doing with Streamo. So it's not a quick touch and go, and you're able to close a deal. It takes good 3 to 4 months to actually go through this entire journey. And one of the good case studies we have is Intel Gamer Day, for which we won a couple of awards as well. So Intel is obviously one of the biggest investors in esports internationally, with almost $100 million of investments in esports. And in India, when we started with them, they had no clue about how to navigate this landscape and how to really go about things. So we started with a very simple esports tournament, which is focused on the PC gaming community, because Intel wants to activate their OEMs, other equipment manufacturers like Dell and Asus and Lenovo and HP Omen, so that they can actually sell the laptops. So the whole focus has been on a very specific cohort of gamers who play PC based games. PC based games like Minecraft and Valorant and GTA 5. So we focus exclusively on that community, which is more mature and has obviously a PC of their own, and have communities which are watching those games. So they're more the propensity for them to buy laptops and PCs is much higher than a mobile user. So we
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. So yeah, so we just so we carve out what really is the problem statement of a brand, and then we go with that. And then I can talk about more case studies, but why don't you ask your question?
One of the things I was wondering about, who's the audience that you're talking to at the brand? Who's the person that, if you could choose any department, any group in a brand, who would you like to be talking to first?
So we'd love to be talking to the marketing department, people who manage the marketing investments, the director of marketing, chief marketing officer, brand manager. Now, gaming and esports is becoming so super specialized, and it's often called as digital marketing 3.0. So the traditional digital marketing manager doesn't know much about gaming and esports. And then there is interactive digital, which is 2.0. And then there's immersive digital, which is 3.0, which is where you have gaming, esports, and live streaming. So a lot of these big brands like Procter and Gamble or Unilever or Pepsi, they have specialized people who actually manage gaming, esports, and live streaming. So we have to talk to them, and we also have to talk to the main person who signs off on all marketing investments. So it's a little bit of a collaborative, consultative, creative way of actually doing a deal. It's not like the standard media sell or a media buy that happens in sports, or that happens across any of the other digital marketing propositions.
Yeah, and one of the things you're learning all the time on how it works. One of the things that I always tell people is find a marketing manager and make them the hero. It's like if you can,
Absolutely.
if you can, I was talking to some of the big publishers around here, and I was like, go over to the studios, find the marketing manager, not the directors, not the VPs, find the manager, and give him a way to be your evangelist within the organization. You're going to get in there and you're going to make them look good. So you're going to have a buddy there, a friend there, and that's just an approach that I've seen certainly in the entertainment business here works really well. And a lot of times people but that it also depends on different industries, just like you're describing. It's going to change from company to company. But
Yes.
one of the things I think is really important is you look and find the right person to be talking to.
No, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think, it's in the early stages, in the incipient stages, it's really about finding a champion within the company or the brand, or like a, thorough evangelist who really, believes in this, who understands this, who sees, sees this as a long-term play as against like a, short-term tactical thing. And also, I think, it's the way we're operating is we're not looking at a one-off association, right? I mean, there is only a handful of brands that actually do invest in esports, gaming, and live streaming. So we really have to work in a very team-oriented manner. We have to come together to build this, story and then tell the story. It's not like um, it's not a transactional relationship by any means. So absolutely, like I think the working very closely and really making them the champion is really, because you need a solid anchor inside the company to drive this. Otherwise, if they don't have that, then this wouldn't be a part of their marketing strategy. So
Now,
absolutely, couldn't agree more with you, Tom.
one of the other things that we heard from Luca Tucconi at Red Bull South Africa in the first episode was he was saying more and more people that are looking for sponsorship, looking for partnerships. He said more and more the person on the other side of the desk is someone that's a gamer. He said
Right.
we're just kind of reaching this tipping point. He thought that there's a better chance, and if they're a gamer, then you're so much further down the road. What do you think that brands? What are they looking for? What are the deliverables? What makes that marketing manager a hero? What do you want to be able to do for him?
So I think the brands are, at the first port of call, I think they're looking at a very um, basic understanding of what this community is all about. I think it's not a straight line to really understand who the consumer is, what kind of habits do they have, what kind of games they play, how many hours in a day that they play those games. So I think there's very little research, very little information about this. So I think at this stage right now they're in the investment phase where they're just experimenting with different propositions. So like in our company we had team, talent, and tournament. Team meaning sponsoring an esports team, talent meaning working with esports athletes and game live streamers, and tournament meaning doing esports tournament on a particular game and building the community around that. So right now I would call it like this phase is all about learning and experimenting, and only then can we actually arrive at a sort of a steady proposition that can be templated and that can be done year after year. We've done that with Intel Gamer Day. We've been working with them for almost more than 2 years now, and every year we continue to add one more layer. Earlier it was mostly online and virtual experiences, and now it's also offline. So it's growing as we're going along. The whole investment and the involvement is growing from Intel side.
Do you? No, that's great to be working with Intel. I mean, there's not many brands in the esports, in the gaming world that rank higher than them. Is the things that you're doing at Streamo? Are you India only, as far as the brands and the streamers both?
That's right. We are focused on the Indian market, and we've focused on the creators in India, and obviously brands are also Indian brands, and obviously multinational brands with Indian arms. So it's, but our focus is India. India itself is so huge. We have aspirations to go to other major YouTube markets like Vietnam and Thailand and Indonesia and some of the countries in Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Egypt, for example. But we haven't really had the time or the bandwidth to actually kind of go there. But we are in the process of starting our fundraising conversations. So by April next year, we should have much more clarity on which direction we're going. Are we going to focus only on India, or we're also looking at one or two markets which are very similar to India? We may want to kind of explore those markets.
Yeah, one of the things I think certainly people here, just don't usually understand how big India is when it comes to population. I mean, it's just massive, and
it's huge. We've actually crossed 1.5 billion people now in 2022, and we're ahead of China. So it's like a new achievement of sorts. I mean, maybe not the best one, but we're really, really huge. So I think uh, we see that this esports and game live streaming, all of this is not just entertainment. I think it's a lot of education also, and it has to play a role of a problem solver in a country as big as India. So we're trying to see multiple use cases of what we're doing. School K to 12, working with schools, collegiate, working with sports teams. So many different use cases. We're still exploring, and it's still early days. I think the one that's really worked for us till now is game live streaming, and it's something which is measurable, something which is uh, cost effective, and allows you to experiment and kind of get a taste of this community. So that's what's really worked. But other than that, I think it's still early days, and we've also been, unfortunately, we've had two of the most popular games in India, PUBG Mobile and Free Fire, get banned by the government. So that's been a little bit of a bummer as well. So yeah, so I mean, it's just two steps forward and one step backward, and then again recalibrating how to go forward.
how do you manage languages there? All the different languages that are in, we were talking to people in the Philippines, and how many thousands of languages there are in the Philippines. Yeah, how did they? We were asking them, how do you manage with that? But you have some of the same situation there. How do you deal with multiple languages?
So essentially, the brands are interested in vernacular, and it works very well to our advantage that these brands are interested in local dialects and people talking to their communities in their in their home language. So we use the same platform. We use everything is same. We don't really have to make much alterations or much adjustments. I think the campaign operates at a national level and at a local regional level, and creators are literally like they're just using the same tools, and so I don't think we're making any real adjustments, or we have to do any changes. It's just we just go with the same structure, and it works to our advantage.
So you're saying the brands are interested in content in the local language?
That's right.
I said that's amazing, because I would think it would be just the opposite. But it's such a great thing that you would know by working with these companies. That if they're looking for engagement, the engagement has to be at that kind of level.
Yes, absolutely. So there are some markets which are, so we have English, we have Hindi, then we have Tamil, which is the South Indian language, then we have Telugu. So a lot of communities actually create content in regional and vernacular languages. So it's already, the community is already there. YouTube has already so much experience in vernacular, and we literally have very little role to play. I mean, we're just helping them with brands, and we find those local brands in local communities which are willing to be a part of this. And yeah, I mean, it's there isn't much of involvement from our side when it comes to local and regional languages.
No, sounds great. Sounds great. The one thing that I should have asked earlier on in the conversation that I meant to
Sure.
was, because one of the things I always like to hear about is how things got started. And so how did Streamo get started? Because when we're talking to entrepreneurs around the world, and it's like usually they get a team of people, you have a bunch of friends, they get a team together and to fill a need. And some of the people we talked last season in India, it was like, well, there was no one doing this, so we decided to go do it. sort of thing. And so I'm just kind of curious about this. What led you and your team there to decide to create Streamo?
So, like I said, we started with the trifecta of team, talent, and tournament, and we dabbled with all three propositions. We went to celebrities. We said, "Do you want to have an esports team?" We did a lot of tournaments for brands that wanted to, build tournaments that happen on a regular basis. And then we also said, okay, let's also look at talent. So we started, cold emailing talents on YouTube. We started meeting with them in person. Meeting persons were very few because it was COVID time, so we couldn't do much of that.
Yes.
And then, one thing led to the other. There were certain talented people that just came and joined us and said, okay, can you help us with monetization? And these were not the big guys. These were like the young and upcoming, gaming aficionados. They were not even proper gamers. And so, we just started working with these guys, and we started building a community one by one. We kept getting more and more gamers, and then that's how we went about it. I mean, it was in the initial days were like, literally, like the campaign would start and they would be like, we'd call sometimes a gamer and he'd say like, my mother's taken my phone and I can't game right now. And I'm like, what are you saying? Get your phone and get on the machine and start streaming. So we had to so we had to literally like make sure that, we now have the demand, but we also have the supply in terms of, enough number of gamers are streaming. And then now, fast forward to today, we have a situation where campaign starts and by the evening, we've already exhausted all the daily quota of views that we have to deliver. And we have this huge, community of streamers. We have so many women streamers that, absolutely are loved by the male communities in India. And then we have, gamer specific streamers. So we have all kinds of ways of slicing and dicing our, streamers now. But obviously in the early days, we really had to like really, put one to one and like really go from there. So that was interesting times.
You sound like you're almost looking back at it fondly, but maybe it's nicer
Yes.
to be where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other good thing which we did, Tom, was we didn't invest much in technology, or we didn't invest too much in any of like, fixed investments. We said, okay, let us, work on what we call the 3M model: migrate, modify, and monetize. So we looked at, businesses that were internationally successful, and we got those concepts into India. We modified those concepts, and straight away we went into monetizing. So our philosophy was very asset light, and we didn't really invest a lot of upfront money. And only now that we have so many, great experiences of working with such big brands. Netflix, for example, we launched Stranger Things 4. We had 5,000.
I saw that.
That was huge. Like everyone was like, like we got so many messages from young YouTubers saying that I just want to show my parents that playing video games is not a waste of time and actually earn money from a brand like Netflix. And so those are really, incredible moments, and made us feel that, what we're doing is actually some value, and it's not just about, dollars and cents, but there is some amount of impact that we're doing. So,
That's great.
So that was
That's great.
really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I could just keep going here. It's just I've got more questions than I don't want to take your whole day there. I did have one question that we ask everyone here, and you probably have an opinion on this. Should the Olympics include esports in their official program?
My answer is no.
Or not?
And I'll give you my reason. I think that, historically the Olympic Games has been declining in its, viewership and ratings, and it's getting a fan base of audiences, which is a much older one. And I think it's the other way around. Olympics needs esports more than esports needing Olympics. So I think Olympics I think they can leverage the positives from esports, the predominantly Gen Z audience, digital natives, all of that, they can actually leverage to their advantage. I think they have a very strong digital strategy already in place. They've introduced certain games. I think 5 games. I'm not sure which ones are those, but some are more like video games, but not just sitting on the chair and playing those games, but actually making physical movements so that you're actually exerting energy as well. So Zwift is one great example. You're cycling on a digital course and you're making putting in effort. So I feel like it's I think they should learn take the best things from each other and not like get fixated about having esports as part of Olympics. I don't think the values of Olympics, which is the universality of the Olympic principles, fair play, friendship, and common greater good. I don't think that directly translates with what some of the games, some of the more games that are based on the concept of Hunger Games or the Last Man Standing genre, which is all about killing and trying to be alive. It doesn't resonate directly. So I feel like it's a forced fit. It's not a natural fit. So I feel like Olympics should leverage esports. Like I think they've done some demonstration events with Intel where they have Street Fighter and they have one more game. So they're still figuring this out. I think more time and more deliberation is required before one can finalize what it is all about.
No, it's always interesting to hear people's take on it because we hear both sides to it. But it's just something that's coming down the road one way or the other.
Yes, but sorry, just to add to that, but we've also been in touch with a lot of the cricket teams, the major franchisees in India, the football franchisees of the official league. So all of them are looking at esports, and they're looking at, how can they use esports to reach out to a much younger Gen Z audience. So that investigation is still going on, but none of them have actually found the perfect solution. So there are case studies of, sorry, go on.
No, tennis is also doing that too, aren't they?
Yes, tennis is doing that too, yeah. Obviously, in India, tennis is a very elitist sport. It's a very, it's only limited to a certain class of people that play and watch the game. I'm talking more about the mass sports, which are like aspirational and played by literally everyone. So, but tennis has done that with Australian Open. They have a game as well. They've used Fortnite to do a lot of activations and bring in, the young people. So that's been very interesting. I think that's another interesting way to connect sports with, this community.
And this again is just for my information more than anything else. Is there anything are there esports games involving cricket the same way that there is with what we call soccer with FIFA? I mean, are there cricket esports games out there?
Right. Yes, that's absolutely. We have around 2 or 3 games. It's called Real Cricket and World Cricket Championship 2. These are the 2 prominent games that are already out there, and they're not as I would say as thoroughly developed or as rich in experience as FIFA or Konami Pro Evolution Soccer. They're there, but they're not like the they're not very fully developed franchises at the moment, and they're more like one-on-one. They're not like there's not a team format. So we're still yet to get traction. But just by virtue of it being a cricket game, it still gets like 100 million downloads and several million people playing it. So that continues to happen because cricket is such a massive, cultural connector, like even Bollywood is for Indian people.
Yes. Is cricket the biggest sport in India?
Yeah, absolutely. By far, it's the biggest sport. It's like what baseball is for, like you call it the national pastime in the US, right? So yes. We have, and football in Africa, right? In every country in Africa, football is like, it's the way of life. So we have cricket as a way of life.
Yes. Hey, I don't want to take. There's all kinds of things I really wanted to talk about. It says you're an advocate of healthy relationship with technology, and that's a completely separate discussion there. I don't want to keep going because we won't stop. But that's another thing that could be good to talk about sometime in the future because I think that's a really smart way to look at things. Hey, I've really appreciated the conversation. I mean, we went right through it, and there's a lot more to talk about. But just really appreciate you taking your time here with us today.
Tom, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you, other side of the world, and Reginald for rising up so early, and really it means a lot, and I'm really happy that we could connect, and hopefully and see you soon. And if there's anything that we can do with you guys in India, connect you with more speakers, bring in more advertisers, whatever that there is, please feel free to let me know.
We are never shy. Do not worry.
All right.
So, no, thanks again for everyone
That's
for
the
listening.
spirit.
Thanks again for everyone for listening. This is the Gamers Change Lives podcast, season 2. Follow the money, play games, create jobs, change lives.